Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we actually have even more Xbox news and kind of more breaking news that happened probably by the time you guys watch this video, maybe like a few hours ago. We're now seeing this court case once again not being led up by the FTC, and we're now actually seeing this overall vibe being pushed now to the Supreme Court. As well, we also have some really big news when it comes to CMA on the fact that once again, they're also not fully pushing into this in the first place. I guess for lack of a better term, it's just more of like they're just not fully trying to finalize the actual deal itself. Now, once again, this does still seem likely that this deal will go through, but it does kind of seem like there actually is a little bit of a fight back when it comes to all these really big government regulatory bodies. And now I would say the Supreme Court usually is a pretty big deal to go discuss on this one. It'll probably get a lot more media attention, and as well is a little bit more on the skeptical side when it comes to if this deal is going to keep on going through or not. So let's go talk about this because it's all, as of today, even bigger news. And once again, we'll hopefully be done having a chance to talk about this soon, so we can talk about other things. But until then, this is some pretty big, new things. As well, make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. We do have all the Samsung HAL pre-orders down below if you guys want to check that out. No obligations needed to save a bunch of money. We have the Twitter and Twitch room down below if you guys want to follow. And of course, all the Amazon links too. And let's dive into the video itself. So first and foremost, we have some pretty big and intriguing stuff over here in regards now to this, big document. If you guys do or do not know, basically the legal system is you essentially have like a bunch of extra layers and layers and layers, and at the very, very top of all these layers, once you go in through all the other appeals, it leads towards the Supreme Court. So basically, it's kind of like when no other judge can decide, or you keep on trying to go and appeal the decision you best you can, as you keep going on and on and on. That basically means that, the Supreme Court is the final say. And as of right now, we have an application over here for the emergency injunction for this brand new case. Now, the FTC still does not want this deal to go through. This is nuts, and this kind of is their introduction post over here where that says, pursuant to the court rules of 23 and all the Wits Act 28 USC, plaintiffs respectfully apply for a stay of the district's court's ordering denying plaintiff's motion for preliminary injunction. So to kind of explain this in like normal terms, they had this huge big court issue these past few weeks trying to get a preliminary injunction, which is basically like an early decision to figure out if this deal can go through or not. That was the big deal. So as of right this second, they are now moving this up towards the Supreme Court to go make it so they cannot have this same outcome of this preliminary injunction, and they want to have the discussion to see if this is a proper monopoly and if it should be included or not. Same thing with the CMA. The CMA also made some brand new statements too as well. So right now, the Microsoft and Activision Blizzards from merging, they want to halt this right now before the base of the Ninth Circuit, and the plaintiff's motion for a preliminary injunction can be heard, and they basically want to have some more time for them to discuss this in courts and make sure this deal's going through. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys, and I've said this a few times throughout my coverage of this. I am okay with this. I personally, if you guys want to hear my take, I think it's fine if Xbox and this acquisition deal goes through. I'm not against it if they kind of stand by their word, which I think a lot of the overall consumers would be very upset if they did not. I think I'm okay with this deal going through, them getting Activision, them getting Call of Duty. I think I'm cool with it. I'm not against it. If it goes through, that's fine. But the one thing I'm also funny enough supporting, not to go and support delays, but more so I want them to have a proper, good discussion. Because I do kind of feel like these are kind of really big blurs of just information and not a proper back and forth and not having a chance to fully discuss what could be good or bad. And it kind of seems like it's just all over the place. Now, the court cases have been ongoing for a while, but in terms of proper regulatory bodies such as the FTC, it hasn't been as big as expected. So right now, they're basically trying their best to go and say, hey, give us just a little bit more time to discuss these deals. It's a really big acquisition. We want to make sure it goes good. There's no regulatory issues, and it doesn't really change anything. It doesn't make the Activision games come out slower. All it is kind of just slops the integration with Xbox and that. And I don't think the newest Call of Duty will probably be even on Game Pass in the first place, so I don't think this is really stopping anything at all. So right now, there's basically this still, they basically say, there is more than sufficient basis to temporarily preserve the status quo, and that's fine. I think they're just trying to say, give us some time to discuss this, talk about it in court, and make sure it's okay. As of 11:59 Pacific time on July 14th, the trope preventing Microsoft from emerging expired. Microsoft and Activision are set to merge sometime between now and July 18th. So basically, they're trying to save both from the CMA and the also American government body to just chill, give it a little bit longer. Let's discuss. The merger between Microsoft and Activision would be one, if not the largest technology mergers in history. At a time when concentration among technology companies is already threatening the competition balance of our economy and even our political systems. Section 7 of the Clayton Act was passed by Congress to stop concentration in its infancy See, I have no idea. Say that. See, Brown Shoe Co. versus United States. A keystone of the erection of a barrier of what Congress saw was the rising tide of economic concentration was its provision of authority for arresting mergers at a time when the trend to a lessening of competition in a line of commerce was still in its infancy. Congress therefore sought to assure that its courts the power, the break. This is like these legal words. I'm over it. Basically, they're trying to go and say, hey, we want to make sure this is not going to be a huge, massive monopoly, and we don't have any big, major issues going on through. And they've also been saying that this is not like just an early baby infancy of the games and gaming industry, where Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo are all massive, and they've gone through a lot of really big acquisitions throughout these last years. Even kind of quoting saying that 2021, Microsoft acquired ZeniMax Media for $7.5 billion. And as well, they also even have Sony going through all these other big acquisitions. Now, they're not really necessarily highlighting Sony because it's not a $70 billion Sony deal, but it is something to also note as well, so don't sound too one-sided for Xbox itself. And this is why it's a big thing, is that they just want to make sure this is not going to turn into a massive monopoly, especially because Microsoft is one of the biggest companies in the world, and they're also then once again buying one of the biggest gaming companies in the world, on top of being one of the biggest like PC and computer and everything else type companies too, I think Windows, etc. They have to go worry about this as well. And one of the big things too is they wanted to say that they wanted to go and have this merger at least discuss, because they haven't even allowed them to even hear the merits of this too as well. They just want to halt the merger. They don't want to stop the merger. They want to halt the merger and make sure that this is like the appeal can be heard. The district court can consider their motions for the preliminary injunctions, and as well to go provide all this leaf to in the first place. And it's kind of crazy because this is a really big deal. They want to go and have this searching scrutiny based on these actual California laws over here from a prior California court case, and at the same time they just basically never had a chance to be heard. Like they realized like, hey, like this is a big deal. We understand that. We're not against. This is not them saying no. It's not them saying like we're not going to allow this, but they wanted to go and basically make sure that this could be discussed so it's not horrible. You know what I mean? Basically, the Ninth Circuit still similarly denied plaintiff's motion for a temporary injunction pending appeal without any analysis, too. So they wanted to have a chance just to discuss this. Like they had their due process rights to be heard. Like that's like the point of like the corner law. If you're going through the court of law, you want to make sure you have the time to be heard. You want to make sure that people can like hear you. Like it's just a big deal, at the same time. It's kind of going through like what's going on in the first place and all the legal standings, and as well basically saying they want to go make sure that this is like brought up to the Supreme Court, all this like brand new court documents. So once again, it doesn't mean that they want to stop the merger. They want to make sure it's not a monopoly, not an antitrust, and they're now raising this too as well, and they just want to have a temporary stop. They're not trying to stop it fully as of this, like this court legal document, maybe overall, but as of right this second, they just want to have a temporary break. Kind of goes the same thing too with the CMA, where they say it's looking unlikely to actually close tomorrow following a lot of these bigger hearings. So the judge of the UK's Competition Appeal Tribunal, or the CAT, has paused Microsoft's appeal against the Competition's Authority, allowing both parties more time to discuss and see if it will be legal to be in the UK. The UK still has not fully approved this deal. They are in talks, though, which is still good, looking good for Xbox overall, but at the same time, it's looking kind of crazy. So during the hearing held today, the judge granted a 2-month pause on the appeal process as Microsoft and the CMA resumed negotiations. In April, the CMA blocked Microsoft's proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard, citing cloud gaming monopolization as a reason not to allow the deal to go through. Microsoft then appealed the decision, and the trial was set to begin then on July 28th. So once again, it's still a double whammy appeal on these big government bodies, such as the Supreme Court and also on the CMA. The CMA announced it was open to renegotiating a deal, which was once again good. Like both these deals are fine. Like they just want to have the due process and legal process happening, and as well as make sure all the legalities are fine. They want to go and open to renegotiate the deal too as well. So they can still win. Like a lot of other countries have already approved this deal, but America and the UK are taking this a little bit more extra carefully. It's kind of funny because I think in the United States it'd actually probably be good because it would also kind of bolster up the American-based economy. It's an American-based company, Microsoft, and has a chance to go and keep on improving the games industry as a world as you sell games to people like in China, Japan, Australia, whatever. So in theory, it's actually kind of funny that the FTC is still against it, although they are still concerned about the actual overall growth of other companies. But I would probably still say Microsoft, as a homegrown American company, should just be allowed to have this deal go through. Like kind of go give like your American-based companies a little bit of wiggle room, because it helps out the American economy, brings more jobs, helps out pay more taxes, etc., etc. So basically, the hearing right now, once again, is just offering more time for these parties to go and negotiate, and it seems like a lot of these things, like the big proper proper closure for the deadline by July 18th does not seem good. So basically, Microsoft just wants to see probably a temporary extension as it continues negotiation with both the FTC, Supreme Court, and everything else. And the CMA, meanwhile, has warned Microsoft that a renegotiated deal could also lead to an entirely new investigation. Once again, reopening a lot of these papers and seeing what happens. So give me your thoughts and comments down below, because it does seem kind of crazy. As well, make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. We have the Samsung HAL link down below for your $50 off purchase. We have the Twitter and Twitch stream down below. Definitely hang out for the Twitch. And of course, the Amazon links. And I appreciate y'all so much for watching here in the first place.